Good afternoon and welcome back to West Ham Irons United for another rendition of our West Ham Daily. Thank you very much to Russ from My Hammers 11 for passing over that torch. If you haven't already, go and check out My Hammers 11 on YouTube. Russ does fantastic content, ex-pros, fan-based quizzes, general chit-chats, all things West Ham. So make sure you go across and check out Russ's channel. And I hope you're all well, and thank you again for joining us on West Ham Irons United. We are doing and committing to these West Ham dailies. They are coming out to you 1:15 p.m-ish. If it's me, it's usually 1:15 p.m, and if it's still, it's usually a little bit later. Thank you for, and if you haven't already, go and check out the player ratings. We put it out last night. Jake and Matt did it for the West Ham Chelsea game. I know it's a little bit later than the game. However, it's a really, really good show. So please go back into our video catalogue and have a look at the player ratings show that Jake and Matt did yesterday evening. Of course, subscribe, like, and comment. However, you have seen today that I'm discussing none other than Said Benrahma and his future at West Ham. Should he stay or should he go? Does Said Benrahma have a future with West Ham? Does Moyes rate him? The 25-year-old joined West Ham from Brentford on a season-long loan last summer. However, his move was made permanent back in January for around £25 million. The seven-time capped Algerian international made a strong start to his life at West Ham with a fantastic performance away against Leeds in December. But, yes, there is a but. Was the writings on the wall for Benrahma with David Moyes' comments immediately after the game? Moyes insisted after the game versus Leeds that Benrahma needed to work on his ball retention and decision making, and Moyes continued to criticise, or constructive criticise, you could say, constructive criticism, depending on how you look at it. So do you think Said has suffered a loss of confidence as a consequence, or do you think the comments made by Moyes have affected Benrahma? Has Benrahma lost his va-va-voom, his flamboyant football style by being managed by David Moyes? He's a playmaker. He's 25 years old, and he loves to play free-flowing football. He loves to create things, make things happen. But has he really had a chance to shine at West Ham? Often players like Benrahma potentially produce poor pass completion rates purely because of the fact that they try the impossible, unlike other less gifted players. And there's a genuine danger that if Moyes keeps insisting on him tracking back defensively and choosing the safe pass, he'll lose the very thing that makes him so good as a player, and the reason why West Ham were interested in him, I should say. His 20-minute cameo against Newcastle and Chelsea, where there were evidence that it just shows how much he's potentially been affected by Moyes' man management. This is by no means me tearing shreds into David Moyes. It's just me merely discussing Benrahma's life at West Ham and how he has been managed under David Moyes. We can't fault what David Moyes has been doing because we're in the situation we're in. But what do you think of the Benrahma situation? He looks like a shadow of his former self. In fact, he looked completely lost, if I'm being brutally honest. And it seems as though his West Ham career potentially is hanging by a thread. He's played 1,120 minutes of football from a possible 2,250 minutes. So he's played 25 games this season in the Premier League, starting just 11 games. He's registered 4 assists, not scored any goals yet. He's got 26 shots with only 10 on target, although he's got an 82% pass completion rate from his time at West Ham so far. And because obviously we know under David Moyes, he likes the hard work rate. He's made 18 tackles, he's got 5 block shots, he's got 6 interceptions and 2 clearances. And at one point this season, he was covering more ground than any other player on the pitch up until February, when he was getting a little run out of starting with the team. But you know, it's all good that we talk about him, but of course we know a little bit about his history. His history was we signed him from Brentford, where he scored, I think it was over 30 goals and assisting 27 times. And he says all the time when you hear him talk, I play football to enjoy myself first and foremost, but it's always enjoyable to know that you're joining the most watched league in the world. This is what he said when he joined the club. So I'm definitely looking forward to showing what he can do. But what I'm going to do is, I can talk a little bit more about Benrahma and his history with other clubs. But I've actually brought a Brentford fan in. I'm going to introduce you all to him just now. It's Jatin. Jatin, thank you so much for joining us today. You do a little bit of work with Bees TV, but you also do some other stuff yourself as well, Jatin. Give us a rundown.
Yeah. So I'm mainly on Bees TV, but I also do some work with Hendon Football Club, and I'm just basically a lot of my life is football. So whether it's Bees TV or just general football, I'm there and around it.
Yeah, cool. No, listen, Jatin, thank you so much again for coming on. So, listen, we know he was with yourselves and he was phenomenal, and we know you had all these, the scouting system obviously within Brentford is a fantastic scouting system, and you've kind of turned over another player or another couple of players that clubs are sniffing about, and I know you've lost out on the automatic championship spots, and you're looking at getting securing the playoff spot. However, when it comes to Benrahma, Jatin, what's your thoughts on his career when he was at Brentford, and what's your thoughts on how West Ham are managing him?
He was phenomenal at Brentford. Honestly, the things he could do, you just get him, hit you off the edge of your seat, and the things he would do were just unbelievable. But where you were sort of talking about in the intro that he has to play with that freedom, and that's what he had at Brentford. He had the freedom to sort of do what he want, not track back, and that's what we played a system to him where he could do that. With at West Ham, obviously in the Premier League, it's different. You can't really have passengers, and that's where you can see that Ozil is very similar, not in terms of ability, but in terms of Arteta, Wenger. They wanted Ozil to do stuff off the ball. That's what his biggest criticism was that he would not do enough work off the ball. And that's Benrahma in the same way, is that off the ball, he would not do enough work to sort of lead him that, yes, he's covered enough ground, but there are times in Brentford games he would cover the most on the pitch, but that would be him probably just jogging up and down the wing. That would not be him actually pressing into players. So he needs to be able to play with that freedom, which he had at Brentford. And there's also the sense that when you have a dribbler in your team, Benrahma's a phenomenal dribbler, but there are times where he's just going to have shocking games. I remember one game in particular, Nottingham Forest at home, we lost 1-0. And then in the 70th minute, we're 1-0 down. This is a big game for promotion. And he's doing rainbow flicks and McGeady spins in the corner, trying to get the ball out instead of we need to play proper football. So that's where he is mostly let down. It's just that he plays football to enjoy himself, but he's not the person that will work hard. Obviously, Lingard has come into West Ham, and he's sort of produced that working hard. That he doesn't have the ability of Benrahma, I don't believe, but he works hard, and I don't think anyone can deny that Lingard does work brilliantly hard. But it depends on what Moyes wants. It's not a criticism to Moyes. He's got a big choice. Does he want someone hardworking in Lingard who doesn't have necessarily the ability, or does he want someone in Benrahma that on his day is phenomenal, but he's going to have to sacrifice that hard work a bit? Yes, he can run a lot, but in the end, that's not real, like going into tackles and going into everything like that.
So Jatin, are you saying then when when he was at Brentford, then he even though his stats read really well, and if we kept an eye on the Championship, the games that I personally saw, he looked fantastic. But there are several games, you've kind of highlighted the fact that several games throughout his career at Brentford, and you're not taking anything away from him, but he can go missing because he loves that free flowing football, and if the game is not set up that way, he will go missing in a game.
Yeah, it's just that it's hard with him because he's at times for Brent he was phenomenal, but at times he was so frustrating because at times you just need to get the ball in, you just need to pass it around, and for him, he needs to be that main center of attraction. That if for the future with West Ham, obviously West Ham doing phenomenal this season, if they continue this, they need to start building around certain players, whether that is Souček at the back in CDM, whether they need to build around these players. Does Moyes have the trust in Benrahma to build around him? And if Benrahma wants to be successful at West Ham, they need to trust him a bit more because then he has that ability. He can show that. And it's his first season. I was never expecting him to come in and do the stats what he was doing at Brentford. Even in Brentford's first season, Benrahma, he was okay at times, that he was doing phenomenal stuff, but he wasn't the player that we finally got him in the playoff season we had. It's just him playing with that freedom and giving that relaxation. Is obviously that's the biggest headache for a manager. Do you want a player that works hard and is battling for every single ball, or do you want to have that luxury of playing this player? Maybe he's not doing the best in tracking back and everything, but on the ball he can produce quality stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think there's an element then, even when you mentioned there about when he joined Brentford, it took him a while to get settled in? Do you think that that's potentially going to be the scenario? I mean, I know, and we as West Ham fans, we know that Moyes is looking for the hard-working player, and it seems to be that that's potentially why he's not favouring Benrahma currently. However, he has been involved in over half of the games, half of the minutes that have been available to him. And there is a bit of squad rotation throughout it. However, fans have been calling for Benrahma to start and want to see more Benrahma starting games to see if there's any form of consistency. I mean, we've got comments in here from some of the people, but Kent in particular is a regular. You've got to allow Benrahma, I don't know what you mean to cheat, but to stay upfield and have a free role to get the best out of him, rather than asking him to constantly track back and do all the hard work, which is what David Moyes does, because I think that doesn't suit the Benrahma style of player, does it?
No, it's just that in the end you have to adapt. If you want to be in the Premiership, you have to adapt. Ollie Watkins did that. He was out of the two. We lost Watkins and Benrahma that season. Watkins was I thought was the one that was the better player, and he had to adapt his game because he was not a great finisher with us. He had 25 goals, but we have us having Ivan Toney this season shows how poor an attack a finisher Ollie Watkins was. There are so many chances over the season where he missed so many chances. With Benrahma, it's just a sense that I don't know if he's got the dedication in himself to develop his game to the Prem. The Championship and the Prem are two different leagues, two different beasts entirely. In the Championship, you can afford to sort of have a lazy passenger against Millwall away, Rotherham, against Barnsley. You can afford to have passengers there. When you're coming against Man United, Chelsea, Leeds, Liverpool, you're coming against teams that will press you from minute 1 to minute 90. And that's the weakness of Benrahma. It's just that he's not going to work for that 90 minutes. So if Benrahma wants to have a successful stay at West Ham, he has to have that ability in himself to change his game, because no player has gone from the Championship to the Premiership without having to develop his game. And that's what I think he needs to do. If he wants to show what he can do at Brentford, he may not do exactly that because obviously it's two different leagues and obviously two different teams, but he will have to have it himself to develop his play, because he cannot go from doing the same thing at Brentford to West Ham, because it's completely two different leagues, two different teams and two different managers.
What was your honest opinion, though, when West Ham came in from originally, when you heard the news that he was potentially he was leaving Brentford? What did you honestly think, and what did the Brentford fan base think?
We expected him to leave. I think there was no one in the fan base that thought he would stay. I thought there were points that we should have tried more to keep him to stay. With Watkins, I thought, even though we're praised for selling players for profit, I'm in the opinion that we should be trying our best to keep these players, because if we had Ollie Watkins, Benrahma this season, along with Ivan Toney, we would have absolutely stormed the league, because no one would have been able to touch us like that. But I thought that when West Ham came for him, I thought that was a good club for him. I didn't predict you to have as good a season as you did. The season you're having right now is incredible. It's one of the best I've seen of you for the times I've been watching the Premiership. So it's been incredible in that sense. And I think that's sort of hindered it, because, West Ham's normally a mid-table team that if they're having a bad season, they're normally low at the end. Or if they're having a great season, they're on the battle. But normally you're a mid-table team. So I think maybe West Ham's success has sort of hindered that in the sense that his development, but, he's coming into a team where everyone's playing well and everyone's doing so well that it's going to knock your confidence. If you're he's coming off of the back of at the end of a poor season, what it was, not stats-wise, but in the end that, we lost in the playoff final. Obviously, that's failure in a sense for that season. So he came into a team thinking, it's a mid-table team, I can work my way in. That's what Ollie Watkins had. He had Villa, he didn't have any pressure on him to, immediately hit the ground. The same with Neil Marpai, who we sold to Brighton. He didn't have the pressure of immediately hitting the ground. I think Benrahma, when he saw that, the team's starting to do well, and, then they brought in Lingard, and Lingard's having the form of his life right now. Yeah. I think there's just pressure on him to start performing, and it's a tough one because he did so well. He did so well for Brentford, and when West Ham came from, I thought, what, if he wants to go there, do it. But I just thought it was a weird move. If it was for West Ham, I thought that the clubs he was linked with, I think Chelsea were linked with him for some. I don't know whether that was an official offer they made or that was just general newspapers talking, but I thought West Ham, good club, mid-table club. He'll learn to develop there, and hopefully, if he shows that ability at West Ham, then he can go higher up into a top 6 club.
Yeah, absolutely. There's loads of comments in here, but I'm just trying to find one particular comment from one of the guys, Jatin, which is talking about, obviously, the system that Brentford have got and the quality of players that you consistently find and bring through and go and sign, etc. And, there's a lot of talk about Ivan Toney as well. I know this video isn't particularly about that, but, West Ham fans are putting 2 and 2 together and trying to come up with a specific number and are thinking that if there's going to be 2 scenarios, you get playoffs and you try and secure promotion to the playoffs, and or you don't, which hopefully you do, you get up and you may have to stay in the Championship. What does that mean for the future of Toney? And a question I'll ask to you, which someone in the chat's asked, is, would you take Benrahma back?
Oof. So obviously we need to keep, it's his first season. So keeping Toney for next season, whether in the Championship or playoffs, Championship or Premiership, is essential, because I think we can somehow convince him. If obviously there's been discussions of the manager, if we somehow change the manager, we're not, most of the fan base is not happy with Frank for several reasons, and that's a completely different issue that I won't go on to here. But keeping Toney is essential for us, and I think he proves that he's a goal scorer. If you give him the chances, he can do it, and I think he'll be essential for us going into the Prem to survive relegation. Obviously, that will be the aim next season if we do go up. In terms of if I would swap Toney for Benrahma, I'd put the question back to you: would you take Payet back if you had the opportunity? Would you take Payet back? And that's the same thing. It's just that all West Ham fans would. Payet is the one connection I have with West Ham is I love Dimitri Payet. You have players in football that you will absolutely love. They may not play for your club, but you'll just love him. Payet was one of them. The way he played for West Ham, honestly, it would get me out of my seat. I had goosebumps times watching him. So I'd ask the fans that would you want Payet back? Obviously, it's the dream that Payet coming back, one of the better players you had for this this part of your history. It's just that you have the memories of him, but I don't think I would necessarily want him back, because I think it's a chapter's ended. He's done, and that's all he's and that's an end chapter for him. It's like players move on, players leave, and that's just the story of football. Would you want that player to come back? But I think for the history, I'd love it, and obviously if he can replicate the form he had at Brentford again, absolutely. But I think it's an ended chapter for him personally.
And then so your final kind of conundrum on Benrahma is, where do you place him? Do you think he's got a future in the Premier League? Do you think he can make the step up? Do you think it's down to him, or is it down to the relevant manager? Does he need to find the right manager who can play him to his style? Or do you think he is settled at the Championship level?
It's obviously his first season. If we were talking about if we were 2-3 seasons in and we said, you know what, he's still not doing it, then I'd probably say that, maybe he's just a great Championship player, but a Prem player is okay, average. But it's his first season, so I think he needs to be given that benefit of the doubt. I think the comments Moyes have made publicly is a bit weird. It's like Mourinho does it with Luke Shaw. He did it with Luke Pogba. It's that openly speaking about a player can either do one or two things. It can either boost them and make them want to work harder, or it can just completely destroy their confidence.
100%.
And that's what I think happened to Benrahma. His confidence just seems to be shot. And that happened a few times at Brentford, where he was just having issues on the pitch with himself, and he's not working he wasn't playing as well, and he just had issues with him. And he's a confident player that he needs to be able to have confidence from the manager to do that. So I think whether it's Moyes or whether it's someone else, I think it will be Moyes, because I don't think he'll be safe till next season at least, unless you're in the relegation zone, because I can't see him having a massive drop off like this, where he goes from near top 6 to relegation.
Yeah.
So I think next season will be his defining season. That if he works with Moyes, try and make a compromise, because you can't expect Benrahma to play something completely out of his game. But in the same way, Moyes is the manager, that he lives and dies by his sword. And obviously, I'm sure 99% of managers will want to play the way they do, because if they get sacked, then at least they can say, you know what, at least I did it my own way. At least I played the football that I wanted to, and I didn't have anyone telling me otherwise. So it's just trying to find that compromise. And I think Lingard and Benrahma is that thing. So I've said it before during this show. If you want the hard worker, Lingard all day. If you want the player that can produce, but you may get the odd inconsistent performances, then you'd have to take Benrahma.
Yeah. I think you're right, Jatin, though, about players who have joined a club, say, for the first time, making the step up. I think there's an element of the fans putting a pressure on even ourselves. You look at the stats that Benrahma had coming off of Brentford when we signed him, and I think there was an element of us thinking, are we going to be signing the next, not comparing exactly to Payet, but the next player that will get bums off seats? That's what all fans get excited about, is when you see that style of player come. So I'm not going to lie to you, when seeing a little bit of Benrahma, I was looking at Etsy from QPR, and you were trying to compare the two of them. Obviously, we had Diangana, who spent last season on loan at West Brom, and he obviously was at West Ham and left. So you had these three kind of quality players, and for me, looking in as the outsider, I was going, my original choice would have been Etsy, followed by Benrahma, and then Diangana, to be honest. But the pressure probably was put on from us, because we were expecting Benrahma to hit the ground running. However, the funny thing is, we already know the style of play and what Moyes is asking for from all of his players, which is the hard work, the tracking back, the covering the ground, don't have to do all those rainbow tricks every 2 seconds, all that sort of stuff. And yeah, that can damage a player to a certain extent. However, do I think that he's got time to settle in at West Ham? Yes. The reason for this show is to actually just talk about what he can offer and what Moyes will do moving forward. To have, if West Ham qualify for Europe, chatting as well, like, we're going to have not just the 38 Premier League games, depending on what European competition, we're going to have a lot more games to play, including the domestic cups, and we're going to need a squad. And is getting rid of the likes of Benrahma, who we know can turn it on when he needs to turn it on. And you always need a player in your squad who can turn it on, and like within, whenever they want to, if that makes any sense. We're always going to need that type of player. Loads of comments in here, though, talking about Benrahma, people agreeing or disagreeing on whether they want him. The West Ham fan base seems to be split down the middle with it, so keep your comments coming in. Jatin, anything else you want to add on the Benrahma scenario?
I don't know. It's weird because it's his first season, so obviously you've watched all the games and everything. So it's better that you have the more structured sort of argument to say whether he's good or not. For me, what I've seen 2 or 3 West Ham games this season, if that. I think give Benrahma the time. Honestly, if I have to plead to I'm pleading for Benrahma here. I'm not a spokesperson or anything, but just if there's anything for Benrahma, I see feed Benrahma in the comments. I think if you give him the opportunity to thrive, he will do brilliance for you. And I honestly do believe that. I still think that if you give him that freedom, just give him this opportunity. Obviously, the first season, I think it's harder with this first season because, you're doing so well. And it's so unprecedented that you need the players to hit the ground running. If you were battling for, let's say, 12th, 13th, by this time of the season, I don't think the fan base would be as split because, it's your first season. Benrahma has that freedom because you're not battling for 6th or 4th. You're not battling against relegation. You're just sort of there. You have 3 games. So if you're playing Chelsea the weekend, you're not bothered. You obviously want to win, but if you lose, you're not going to get relegated. And if you lose, you're not going to risk a top 4. So if you were battling mid-table, you would have the freedom to sort of give Benrahma that time. But because you're battling against top 6 and what could be a unique season, next season you may go back to mid-table, it's obviously hard for Benrahma. So he came into a team that's overachieving its goals, and I hope that's not a disrespectful thing to say. So I'd say give Benrahma the time, and I think he will prove people wrong. And I think if you give him that time and the freedom, and if he gets on Moyes' good side, or whether it's someone else than Moyes, I do truly think that he will have maybe not a fantastic career at West Ham like Payet did, but I think he will have a good career at West Ham for however long he stays.
Yeah. Listen, Jatin, I totally appreciate you coming on, taking time out of your busy schedule to come and chat Benrahma with West Ham fans. And as you can see, all the people in the chat have been really nice and kind about you coming on and wishing you all the best for this season and touch wood, all the best for the season. And before you go, I'm going to ask the question. I know you were talking about Ivan Toney in particular. There's again the transfer rumor just starts to spiral out of control, and Toney has been at the kind of point of call with West Ham fans for the last 4 or 5 months, even though I know we've only signed him for 1 season. Has he got the ability to step up to the Premier League, even if it's with Brentford or West Ham or whoever?
It's always hard because he's got, I think these last 2 or 3 games, the Brentford games anyway, he's been a little bit off it. And I think, there's cracks starting to show in his game, and he's not been the Toney he's been for the entire season. So whether he makes in the Prem, I think if he gets the service, I think he is a good goal scorer, and I think he'll get you at least 15 goals a season in the Premier League when he fully sits in there. So I think he does have the ability, but obviously it's very hard to say unless I see him playing. With regards to the links to West Ham, listen, I think West Ham need to go for. I think West Ham are of a size club where you can go for someone bigger than Ivan Toney, because I think you can go. Haller didn't work out. I think that was a good target for you, and I thought that was going to work out. Sadly, it didn't. But I thought Haller is the caliber player you need to go for, and I think if you want to continue this battle for the top 4, top 6, and you want to continue this on, just not for this season, you want to continue on, I think you need to look above Toney. But if you do sign Toney, listen, I think I'd be here next season, and the title will be Toney's future instead of Benrahma's future. So
yeah. A couple of more players. Sorry again, Jatin, I want to let you go, but people are asking me. I want to talk to you about 2 players. You've got one of our players on loan, Winston Reid. What's been going on?
No, listen, I'll answer as many questions as I can. It's enjoyable to talk Premiership football, especially in the Championship. Hopefully we can do a preview next season. But Winston Reid, he's been injured for a while, for a few weeks. The manager didn't tell us that. He's been good considering we lost Pontus Jansson, who was our main centre back, and we've had a few defensive frailties this past few months. I'd say that Winston Reid, he's come in, he's done well. I don't expect him to stay at West Ham next season. I don't expect him to be at Brentford either. I think he's old enough now. I think we got him there for character and for cover, but I don't think Winston Reid is just one of those long. He's like James Collins back in the day for West Ham. He's not the man. He's not the defender that West Ham need right now, and I think he'll just go on to somewhere else. I think he'll go on to a lower championship club, and he'll just sort of see out his days in football. And I think that's it. I don't think he did anything special for us, and obviously it was a good loan to get in January to help boost our squad. But yeah, it was a bit injury prone, and I thought that in January that, you know what, he's a good cover, but this may be the thing that he plays 20-minute spell for us, he gets injured, and then we've just essentially paid his wages for the remaining 6 months.
Yeah. Another player that one of the particular people in the chat are talking about is Rico Henry. You know, I've followed him a little bit, and he looks quality. I know he started off the season with a bit of an injury, but how's he been, and what's your thoughts about Rico Henry?
Yeah, so I think when he's been for us for like 4 or 5 years, and I think he's only just reached 100 appearances for the club, which is phenomenal stuff somehow. You know, his injury record is bad, but obviously this season and a bit of last season, he turned that injury form around, and he was brilliant for us, and he was key for us this season. As soon as he got injured, we lost 4. We went 21 unbeaten with him. The day he gets injured, the next match we lose 4 in a row, and we've had 7 draws and 8 in the previous games without him. And obviously we need him for the playoffs back. So he's a phenomenal player, very good up and coming left back. Obviously, there's a lot of talented English defenders coming through now, and I think Rico Henry is definitely one of them. You know, defensively, he's very quick on the attack. I think maybe he needs to fix his defensive awareness at times, but he's a very good left back option. But I think I said the same with Toney. It's just that if West Ham want to kick on, I think they need to look above options than Rico Henry. I think there are maybe a few better options for West Ham than Rico Henry, because Rico Henry, Ivan Toney, Benrahma, they're all risks players. You know, they've done well for Brentford, but this is Brentford in the Championship. You know, I think you could look at getting better players from either abroad or from in the same league, which would be less risk, I think.
Yeah, of course. Listen, that is it, Jatin. I'm not going to take up much more of your day because we've got lives we need to live and work we need to do, etc. So it's been an absolute pleasure. And like I said, all the best for the rest of the season. And hopefully we can do a preview together next season, or we can even just look at doing some stuff anyway. We'll see what happens. But thank you so much, mate.
No worries. Cheers, mate. Thanks.
Yeah, take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
So yeah, I hope you all enjoyed that. Having Jatin from Brentford fan coming on, it was really good and insightful to hear his opinion on Benrahma, and it was really actually found it really interesting to hear what his opinion was of Benrahma about, you know, how he went missing even when he was at Brentford. However, it's going to be the sacrifice that the manager has to make, and that's the key element. Will Moyes want to make that sacrifice? But I don't know if it's going to be such a big sacrifice, because I think that we're going to need players that can step up on a big occasion, on a big day. And I think Benrahma's still got that capability. And we need to remember, listen, he's not going to come into the Premier League all guns blazing, and he's going to take time to settle in. And sometimes these players do take time, and Benrahma could be that. But let's go in and see what the chat's saying, because I've not even really had a chance to come in and speak to you guys about it as well. So I've gone back as far as I can go back. D. Lee, I don't want him tracking back. Every player doesn't need to, and that's related to Benrahma. And I agree with you, absolutely. Charlie Painter, excellent observation from Jatin. Moyes has got to trust Benrahma for a free role, and I think he would work. I absolutely agree with you. Still, Fornals was the same when Moyes returned to West Ham. Moyes wanted more out of him, and he now had Fornals playing the way Moyes wants. Benrahma needs to do the same, otherwise he won't have a future. The problem with that still is, though, I think that what Moyes did with Fornals, he can do with a Fornals, but I don't think you can do that with a Benrahma, and that's the ultimatum. I think it's going to have the problem. Still, you're saying he'll have next season to adapt. We might sell him at the end of next season, but yeah, we don't need to if he plays well. Father Snowman, I remember start of the season, the football we played was very poor. What changed? We were winning a lot. The style we play is not great on the eye, but this is a results game now. We accept this style. Absolutely, mate. Clark Newham, thank you for joining us. For me, the only players who can have free roles are world-class players, and Benrahma isn't one. Adam Cook, I think his confidence has dropped as he's expected to start and coming on as a substitute. His form has dropped, and he needs to restart next year. That could be the thing. Get himself settled into the Premier League, and sometimes players need that, don't they? I would have played him up front. I don't know. I mean, that's right. We covered that one, didn't we, Kent? But that's the role Lingard has been given by Moyes, and Moyes won't have two players doing that. Moyes believes that Lingard can do and has proven to do better. He's okay at holding the ball, so stick him up front. I don't know. I really don't know. Mark Alexander, more and more, it looks like Benny is a board signing and just doesn't fit the mould of Moyes' player. But it goes back to, Mark, about having a squad and being that squad rotation. I've brought up the image of the amount of minutes he's been involved in, 1,120 minutes from a possible 2,200 odd minutes. So he's played, and he's only started 11 games of his 25 appearances as well. So I don't know. I think he still definitely does have definitely have a future. Let's see what other comments. These are all talking to each other. Freshfielder, afternoon, all great to hear Yatin's thoughts. Thank you for joining us, mate. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Epic hash time. Moyes is the only manager in the Prem who gets a pass for being unable to use players like Benrahma and Haller because of he has a system. Absolutely. If Moyes get what Lingard have from Moyes' trust, Benrahma will shine quickly. Well, we'll see. John Kidward, Watkins has also struggled missing chance after chance. Yeah, but he's got goals, and sometimes when you're a striker and you score, I don't know what his stats are so far this season, but he scored goals. Kent is saying that's why I'm not convinced by Benrahma will be at West Ham for much longer because you have to fit into Moyes' style. Watkins would have fitted Moyes' way and a system better. I kind of tend to agree with what you're saying there. To be honest, Kent, West Ham fans need to stop dreaming that we'll swap Toney for Benrahma. Cheap talk. It is. But it brought up the question about Toney, and fans are intrigued to know what he's like, especially from a Brentford fan. Ali Watkins finds the space, the coach confident that Benrahma missed. I'm not sure what you're saying there, mate. And Long Dark Tunnel, exactly. Brentford wouldn't want him. Basically, I think you're saying want him back. And yeah, that was interesting. I thought that was interesting, definitely. Kent, you're not convinced by Toney. Still, you're saying you would do okay, but may take a season to adapt to the Premier League. Mark, you're not convinced by Toney. I think Benny will be good next season, especially if we're in Europe. Still's asking a question. Moyes allows one person in a free role in starting 11. Would it be Lingard or Benrahma? I think we all know the answer to that, to be honest. I think that's a no-brainer. Patrick, wow, this guy from Brentford's talking sense. One season, give him a chance for his sake. Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. God, there's so many comments. I think it would be Benny and as Lingard. Yeah, 100%. Doing bits the way Moyes wants him to play. Long Dark Tunnel. If he hadn't bought Benrahma and got someone else instead, where would we be in the league now? It's a tough question, isn't it? D. Lee, Benny's a West Ham player. Lingard isn't. That's true. God, there's so many comments. It's so tough to do it. I mean, these shows are supposed to be short and sweet. We can never, ever get through them. You are when a regular striker who holds up the ball, Benrahma would get to show his skills more now that Antonio was injured. There just isn't the place for him. You make a valid point, to be honest, you do, because with Lingard up top, he just thinks attack, and Antonio holds up the play, like you said. So, yeah, it makes sense. But Moyes wants Lingard permanently in the next season, and he does, and it looks like that hopefully could happen. James, I think Benrahma is one of those players that need a crowd to play in front of to get the best from. Do you know what? It's a huge point. It's a huge point, mate. Huge point. As he's not even had fans in the stadium to play under, and I wonder if that's impacted him, and I don't for a second doubt that some players are going to be affected for that. So it's a really good point you've made there. John, it's difficult to break into our midfield. Too many good players. I rate Fornals, Lanzini, Bowen, Jesse above Benrahma. They're more decisive and play for the team more. But the thing is, though, I'm not doubting for a second that Benrahma doesn't play for the team. I'm not disappointed in Benrahma's defensive ability when he comes on and his work rate. I'm just more disappointed in his finishing in his final third, etc. Everyone's paying many nice compliments towards Jatin from the Brentford fan. So, yeah, so many comments. I'm going to try and skip through some. Look at in the actual you're talking about at Leicester now. We need a squad. Injuries in other positions have proven we need depth. It's true, mate. He wasn't firing all cylinders. Now I think he's got some crazy record with scoring goals. Mark Lanzini will be gone in the summer, not the player he was before the injury. And I do agree. I shake his hands, wish him all the best for the future, get some money in, but I think that's the route we need to go down for selling a player in that area, and will generate some income if needed. That's why I wouldn't get rid of the likes of Anderson, but I would get rid of the likes of Lanzini, to be honest. Lanzini needs to move on. Good player, but just doesn't fit in anymore. Lingard gets free roll style, more end product at the moment. Absolutely. So many comments. Benrahma, the modern day Taravit, ill skill with not a lot else. I don't know, 'cause I know he was a quality player, but there's a lot of problems with him. A lot of problems. Thanks to Yatin for coming on. Um, we have to stop dreaming of Toney. Such a poor, lazy story by the press. The thing is, though, still, I don't think it's really a story about West Ham being linked to him. I think it's fans saying that they would like. I've not particularly seen a story saying West Ham going to buy Toney. I think I've seen more people saying we should go for the likes of a Toney. When they signed him, I think it was signed him from Peterborough in League One. He's made the step up to the Championship, and he's made the step up with abundance. And now it's the style, he's just a quality-looking striker. He looks like he'd fit into the system. He's a hard-working striker, and you've got to put two and two together. Why would no Premier League club be looking at the players who are in the Championship who've got 20+ goals in a season? Of course they are, and that's where I think that story's probably come from. Give Benrahma more time and freedom, and you'll see his real performance. And yeah, I think we'll probably get to see that at some point. Ben is becoming like the new Jeff Pike. Oh my word! Honestly, you go off on crazy tangents in this chat, don't you? And it's quite funny. Rico Henry used to be a good proper good wonder kid on Football Manager. Not sure about his year's game. What I found interesting about Rico Henry was the fact that he's got an injury record, a strong injury record as well. So I wonder if that's going to be a potential problem for West Ham looking at that area, because we were linked to him as well. Good talk, thanks. Yeah, thank you for joining us. It's jumped. Why does it do that? Why does it do that? It's so annoying, but it has jumped. Let me go back up as far as I can. Not everything is weird, still. Not everything is ironic. Anton, not everything is Still's fault. At least Benrahma from his chains. DMH, I'd keep Benrahma as a squad player, but have no faith in him starting. He has just not proved he's worth his place. Desperately poor finishing. Yep, absolutely. Well said, DA, by the way. Loved your comment on the Balbuena video. Benrahma needs to take his chains off. Oh, DA, do you know what? Sorry. Anton, not everything is Still's fault. Yes, it is. Yes, it is, DA. Yes, it is. If you tune into the videos, you understand that it is, because he's always late and he always this and that. 97, he was getting a run of games and looked good when then he was dropped. Yeah, but that's you do make a valid point in that as well. And Moyes does have a history of doing that with certain players, or favouring certain players. When he first joined, he was favouring Lanzini, even though Lanzini needed to be dropped or rested from the team. So yeah, John Bowles, he needs to play more than 25 minutes a game. Don't block Happy Amaret still. Don't, please, mate. I had to go and find her from the blocked list. Nobody knows why she was blocked, so I found her and we got her out there. It's not always what you do when you have the ball, but when you're also doing what you're doing when you don't have the ball, and it seems to be Moyes' problems with him. That and his lack of decision making for goals. Absolutely. Reese, talk to me. What is Discord? I have no idea what it is, mate. Jatin, mate, thank you very much. Hopefully West Ham kick on. We have a game in the future. So many lovely comments. I really appreciate them. Thank you very much, mate. You didn't need to do that. So yeah, really kind of you. Thank you for joining us. Is Peach in the chat? I've not seen his comments. Is he there? If we can get some confidence, Benrahma could be very good in Europe next year. Like you said, it can take time to adapt to the Premier League. Absolutely. Yep. Look, I swear Toney hasn't scored since he was linked with us. Yeah, probably true. We could turn Brentford into a feeder club like Slavia Prague. I don't know. I don't know if that's feel like that's slightly disrespected them. Maybe, I don't know. Is it? 97, Moyes wants players to track back, and which is hindering Benrahma's attacking game. Payet never used to track back as the other players used to do it for him. Maybe do that for Benny. Yeah, we never know. I tell you what, we're going to just jump down to the bottom and get through some of the last of the comments, because we're coming up to 40 minutes. Rico has had an injury record. Also, if I remember, James, I'm not sure anyone will take a punt to buy Toney from the Prem. I suspect loan with option unless Brentford come up. James Yeoman, if David Moyes can work wonders with Marco Arnautovic, why can't he do so with Benrahma? I agree with you. If there's ever a good manager, then it's the one to do it. Hello, everybody. Hope you're well. Good transfer rumours are mad this year, according to my One Football notifications. We are after about 20 players. Are you sure it's not the West Ham Weekly with Stell? Are you sure it's not the notifications coming up with Stell's West Ham Weekly? I have a question for you. Would fans rather sell Benny than keep Felipe Anderson? Oh, that's a good question. I can't answer that, if I'm being honest. I can't. I'd keep both. and I've explained in the previous video in the daily when I've talked about Anderson why I would keep Anderson. So Discord is a chatting site thing where you can voice and video chat as well as text chat. It's a bit like a chat room. Honestly, I didn't even know that, so maybe we need to look into that. Stephen, Moyes no faith in Benrahma. I think Benrahma's like a rabbit in headlights at the moment. Reese, you can send out a message that goes through as a proper notification. I'm trying to get it sorted so it just notifies you when a bunch go live. Listen, that brings an end to our chat. Yeah, that brings an end to our daily. So what do you think? Do you think Benrahma has a future with West Ham? Do you think he doesn't? We've had Jatin on from the Bees TV, Brentford's YouTube channel, and he gave us a really good kind of summarising opinion on what Benrahma was like at Brentford, and when he played well, what he was like, and when he didn't play well, what he did, and what the fans thought of when he was sold, and what they thought of now when his West Ham career. So please keep your comments coming in. Please hit the thumbs up and please subscribe to the channel. I hope you're enjoying these daily shows as much as we are putting them for you together. So yeah, thank you very much for joining us. And yeah, like I said, keep the comments coming in, keep the thumbs up, and we'll be back today is tomorrow with another daily. So make sure you tune in tomorrow and keep going. Thanks very much. Come on, you Irons.